Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really fascinating stack of material in front of us today.
Yeah, we really do.
It's centered entirely around a Wikipedia article detailing the career of professional wrestler Gene Snitsky.
Which is just a wild ride from start to finish.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And our mission for this deep dive is to trace how an athlete's life can pivot wildly. I mean, going from legitimate gridiron aspirations to being at the center of one of the most infamous, shocking storylines in modern wrestling history.
And eventually transitioning to selling pressure cookers on YouTube.
Right, selling pressure cookers. It's crazy.
It's an incredible trajectory to analyze. When you look at the mechanics of the entertainment industry, specifically the wrestling business, you rarely see a career path that highlights the necessity of adaptability quite like this one.
I want you, the listener, to imagine being brought in for a one-night gig. You're booked as a jobber for a Monday night broadcast.
Just a warm body, essentially.
Exactly. Your only directive is to go out there, make the monster look good, take the pin, and go back to the locker room. But because of a wildly controversial, almost unscripted feeling angle involving a baby, you accidentally become a permanent household name overnight.
That is the Gene Snitsky story in a nutshell.
It really is.
And it really forces us to look at how performers navigate the bizarre hands they're dealt. You don't plan for a career defined by an accidental moment of infamy, but when it happens, you either ride that wave or you get pulled under.
Well, let's start long before he ever stepped through the ropes. We're looking at his life when he was just Eugene Allen Snitsky.
Right, growing up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania. And he had a very serious, legitimate athletic pedigree. At Panther Valley High School, he was an all-state punter.
Which is no small feat.
No, not at all. That kind of leg strength and athletic coordination earns him a full scholarship to the University of Missouri to play for the Missouri Tigers.
A major Division I program.
Absolutely. And get this, his offensive lineman coach during his time at Mizzou was none other than future NFL legend Andy Reid.
Which is a detail that immediately establishes the caliber of the environment he was in.
For sure.
Playing Division football under a coach like Andy Reid requires a level of discipline, physical toughness, and mental fortitude that most people simply don't possess. You are being molded in a high-pressure crucible.
Yeah, and Snitsky's professional football aspirations were no joke. After his college career, he went straight into the professional grind.
He really pursued it.
He did. In 1995, he actually made the preseason roster for the CFL's Birmingham Barracudas.
Okay.
And from there, he managed to sign with the San Diego Chargers. He is right on the cusp of the NFL, doing the training camps, putting his body through absolute hell to secure a spot on a main roster.
Right, but this is where the narrative takes a sharp turn, and honestly, a tragic one. During his time with the Chargers, Snitsky re-aggravated a shoulder injury. But the devastating context here is that this was an old injury from his college days at Missouri that had been misdiagnosed.
Oh man, that's brutal.
It is. The re-aggravation wasn't just a setback. It was the definitive end of his NFL dreams.
Just over. Just like that.
What's fascinating here is the psychological toll of that specific moment. When you are a top-tier athlete, your entire identity, your daily routine, your diet, your self-worth is tethered to your physical utility.
Right, it's all you know.
Exactly. When a misdiagnosis effectively closes the door on the one thing you've trained your whole life to do, the necessity to completely reinvent yourself is absolute.
And his reinvention takes him straight into the squared circle. He starts training and performing for World Stream Wrestling, WXW, based out of Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Back to his home state.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, his early gimmick is incredibly smart. He wrestles as Mean Gene Snitsky, and he forms a tag team with a guy named Rob Harper.
The Twin Tackles.
The Twin Tackles. They just lean all the way into a football persona. It's such a clever way to bridge his past and his present.
I actually don't think it was clever so much as it was an act of pure survival.
Oh, really? How so?
Think about it. When your entire identity is massive guy who hits people on the gridiron and the NFL rejects you, professional wrestling is one of the only physical industries left that will buy exactly what you're selling.
That makes a lot of sense.
He took the uniform he just lost and weaponized it for a localized crowd. It's a natural lateral move, but it's born out of necessity.
That's a fair point. I mean, regardless of the motivation, it works. He builds a solid foundation, and on October 20, 2003, he gets a tryout match at a Raw taping in Wilkes-Barre.
Working against Tommy Suede.
Right, another WXW talent. Now, Snitsky doesn't win the match, but he clearly shows enough size, mobility, and presence that WWE offers him a developmental deal. They send him down to Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Ohio Valley Wrestling, or OVW, is a crucial step here. You have to remember what OVW represented at that time.
It was the proving ground.
The absolute proving ground. It's where the corporate brass sent raw talent to strip away their indie habits and teach them how to work the hard camera, how to pace a match for commercial breaks, and how to embody a character.
And the character they gave him down there is fantastic. They repackaged him as Mean Gene Mondo.
Right!
And they made him the kayfabe brother of Mike Mondo.
A classic developmental strategy. You pair a new, imposing guy with an established developmental talent, establish a kayfabe familial link, and see if the audience buys into the dynamic.
Yeah, it gives him an anchor.
Exactly. It allows the new talent to hide their greenness while they learn the psychology of the ring.
Okay, let's unpack this, because everything changes on the September 13th, 2004 edition of Raw. This is the pivot point for his entire life.
It's a big night.
Snitsky is brought up to the main roster to make a debut against Kane. And Kane is, at this point, a monstrous top-tier heel on Monday nights. Snitsky is slated for a one-night appearance.
Just a quick enhancement match.
The notes indicate he was fully expecting to take the bump, do the job, and drive straight back down to OVW to continue his training as Gene Mondo.
That is the standard operating procedure. Local or developmental talent is fed to the established monster to make the monster look incredibly dangerous heading into a pay-per-view.
But the booking for this specific match was anything but standard.
Far from it.
During the bout, Kane is preparing to inflict serious damage on Snitsky, but he gets distracted. Lita comes down to the ring. Now, in the storyline at the time, Lita is kayfabe pregnant with Kane's child.
A wild storyline on its own.
Totally wild. Snitsky, playing his part, uses this momentary distraction. He grabs a steel chair and hits Kane square in the back. Kane falls forward, and all of his massive weight lands directly on Lita.
Yeah.
And this spot results in a storyline miscarriage.
Which is a staggering creative decision. Even within the heightened melodramatic reality of ruthless aggression-era wrestling, scripting a miscarriage as a byproduct of a wrestling spot is incredibly dark.
It's super heavy.
It crosses a line that forces an immediate visceral reaction from the audience.
Visceral is the exact right word. The crowd was absolutely stunned. But what cemented Gene Snitsky in the annals of wrestling history wasn't just the chair shot. It was his reaction in the backstage interviews that followed.
Oh, the promo.
Yeah. When confronted about causing this horrific, tragic event, his deadpan delivery of a single line changed his career. He just looked at the camera and said, "It wasn't my fault."
It's the perfect heel response, complete abdication of responsibility.
The audience reaction was so intense, the heat was so palpable, that WWE management completely tore up their plans. They didn't send him back to OVW.
No, they didn't.
According to the sources, they literally flew Snitsky on the corporate jet to ensure he was promoted to the main roster full-time immediately.
The corporate jet detail really illustrates the frantic mechanics of the wrestling business.
It's so fast-paced.
This industry runs on a very simple metric. If the crowd reacts, you push it. You can spend millions of dollars and years of television time trying to organically build a star, and the audience might just reject them.
Right. We've seen that happen plenty of times.
But if a one-night jobber stumbles into a white-hot angle and the crowd responds with genuine outrage, the promoter has no choice but to capitalize on that sudden momentum. They elevated a disposable character to a main event level antagonist overnight.
And they threw him right into the deep end. Snitsky goes directly into a massive, violent feud with Kane.
Which is brutal.
It all culminates at the Taboo Tuesday event. Snitsky takes a steel chair, wraps it around Kane's throat, and literally crushes his larynx.
And we should look at the logistical reality behind that brutal piece of fiction. WWE didn't write a crushed larynx angle just for the sake of violence.
They had an ulterior motive.
They had a very specific corporate problem to solve. Kane needed to be written off television for several months so he could go film the WWE-produced horror movie, See No Evil. Wrestling often uses these horrific, career-threatening angles simply as administrative tools to manage talent schedules.
It's brilliant in its utility, really.
Yeah.
But as dark and violent as the larynx crushing was, this era of WWE was simultaneously producing some of the most absurd, campy television imaginable.
Absolutely.
Cut to the Survivor Series event. Snitsky is backstage, and he crosses paths with Heidenreich, who is another massive, unhinged, heavy-breathing heel.
Yes.
They just stand there, staring at each other, breathing heavily, and they exchange what I can only describe as monster pleasantries.
That's amazing.
Heidenreich looks at him and says, "I like your poetry." And Snitsky stares back and replies, I like what you do to babies.
That segment is fascinating because it's a rare moment where the promotion allows the characters to acknowledge their own absurdity.
They're almost winking at the camera.
You have two men whose entire gimmicks are built on terrorizing people, and they're bonding over it in a backstage hallway. It's a complete departure from the gritty realism of a crushed larynx, leaning heavily into dark comedy.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. By the summer of 2005, the absurdity reaches a whole new level.
Oh boy.
Edge and Lita have transitioned into massive heels, and they need an enforcer to help them systematically attack Kane. Edge approaches Snitsky backstage to bribe him for his services.
But not with money?
No, not money or a title shot. Edge tells Snitsky he knows about his female foot fetish and offers him access to Lita's feet in exchange for his help.
It's so bizarre.
And Lita actually goes along with it, later thanking Snitsky for the miscarriage 9 months prior, saying she was better off not having Kane's offspring and kissing him as payment.
Just completely rewriting the tragedy.
The wildest part of this entire angle. The sources note that Snitsky has a real-life foot fetish that he has always been completely candid and open about.
This is a hallmark of the wrestling industry's approach to character development. They're constantly mining the performer's actual life for material.
Nothing is off limits.
Taking a genuine personality quirk, especially something as specific as a foot fetish, and injecting it into a highly produced television storyline does something very subtle to the performance.
It makes it real for them.
It blurs the line between the man and the character, making the heel feel bizarrely authentic even when the scenario itself is pure melodrama.
It is wild how they blend reality and fiction. From there, Snitsky has a really varied run. He forms tag teams with Tyson Tomko, he turns babyface for a while, and teams with Goldust.
Trying out different dynamics?
Yeah. But fast forward to 2007, and the company decides it's time for a massive, shocking visual overhaul.
Yeah.
They move him to the ECW brand, and they turn him into an absolute psychotic madman.
A total reinvention.
Right, they strip away every normal feature he has. They shave his head completely bald. They shave off his eyebrows. They color his teeth a rotting dark yellow. And they cover his face in these strange, raised red marks.
You really have to consider the psychological commitment it takes for a performer to agree to that. You are intentionally making yourself grotesque.
Everyday life would be so weird.
You are walking through airports, going to grocery stores, living your actual life without eyebrows and with dyed teeth, just to sell an illusion for television. It shows a profound dedication to the gimmick.
And the gimmick was terrifying.
Yeah.
He was incredibly brutal in the ring. He eventually gets drafted back to Raw and goes on this massive undefeated streak through the summer of 2007, just destroying people week after week.
A classic monster push.
And amidst all this destruction, the writers throw in this hilarious random storyline clarification where it is officially announced on television that Snitsky is not Vince McMahon's illegitimate son.
Which no one was really asking.
Right. Just in case the fans were trying to connect those dots.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, though, despite the undefeated streaks, the terrifying new look, and the high-profile matches against top guys like John Cena, the momentum eventually stalls out.
Yeah, it always does.
By December 2008, Snitsky actually requests his release from his WWE contract. That requires a tremendous amount of self-awareness.
Walking away on your own terms.
It is incredibly difficult to walk away from the financial security of a major corporate machine, but he clearly recognized that the character had run its course in that specific environment.
He knew when to walk away, but he didn't stop working. He heads back to the independent circuit and keeps grinding.
Back to the roots.
He goes back to WXW and wins the C4 Ultimate Heavyweight Championship in 2012. He wins the Right Coast Pro Heavyweight Championship in 2017.
Staying active.
He makes a surprise appearance in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling TNA in 2014, working with Dixie Carter's faction. And incredibly, in 2023, he makes a return to Major League Wrestling, MLW.
Wow, 2023.
He even popped up for a backstage cameo on WWE Raw with Chelsea Green, delivering his classic, "It wasn't my fault" line.
The independent circuit is a completely different beast than the WWE. When you choose to work places like Right Coast Pro or WXW after main eventing Monday Night Raw, you are choosing the grueling reality of long drives, smaller crowds in local armories, and a heavy physical toll, all for the love of the craft and the creative freedom it provides. It proves he wasn't just in it for the corporate spotlight.
Exactly. But the wrestling ring is only a fraction of what he's been up to since 2008. If you look at his media footprint, he has built this incredibly eclectic post-wrestling career.
He really branched out.
In 2009, he showed up playing a biker in a music video for the band Virus for their song Free Your Soul. In 2019, he takes on the lead antagonist role of Buck Severs in an independent horror film called 100 Acres of Hell.
A horror movie villain.
And he wasn't just an actor for hire, he was a co-producer, a writer, and the stunt coordinator for the movie.
Let's not romanticize it too much as a Renaissance pursuit. It's hustle culture at its core, but it is a brilliant utilization of his specific skill set.
How so?
Being a professional wrestler means you are essentially a live-action stuntman who understands how to block a scene, how to project physical intimidation, and how to take a hit safely.
That's very true.
Translating those very specific, hard-earned skills into stunt coordination and horror movie acting is a highly logical pivot.
It makes total sense. And that ability to project intimidation made him the perfect tool for hidden camera television. He was featured on several episodes of ABC's Primetime. What would you do?
Oh, that show is fascinating.
He played exactly the kind of people you wouldn't want to cross. A biker, a wanted criminal, a bully. In one scenario, he's cast as a guy openly harassing a little person in public just to see if everyday bystanders would have the courage to step up to this massive, terrifying human being.
That's a fascinating sociological experiment. The producers of that show understand that human beings naturally recoil from physical anomalies that project danger.
Right, and he's huge.
Snitsky spent years mastering the exact body language, the posture, and the facial expressions required to make a crowd of thousands deeply uncomfortable. Using that cultivated aura to test the moral courage of unsuspecting strangers in a coffee shop is a brilliant casting choice.
It really is. But out of everything we've covered, the football, the baby storyline, the horror movies, my absolute favorite detail in this deep dive is his ultimate pivot.
It's the best part.
Gene Snitsky, the man with yellow teeth who crushed Kane's larynx, became a highly enthusiastic YouTube pitchman for TriStar products.
Unbelievable.
He shot a series of instructional videos demonstrating the features of the Power Pressure Cooker XL. You can literally pull up YouTube right now and watch the monster of Raw warmly and patiently explaining the nuances of making a low-country boil and perfectly cooked buffalo wings using a countertop appliance.
This raises an important question about how we fundamentally perceive the performers who inhabit these larger-than-life aggressive roles. We tend to freeze them in our minds as these static, terrifying entities.
We really do. We just see the monster.
We conflate the psychotic character on the screen with the human being playing the part.
And the reality of his actual life shatters that illusion completely.
Yes.
The sources describe a guy who is incredibly grounded. Eugene Snitsky lives in Orwigsburg, Pennsylvania with his wife, Carolyn.
A very normal life.
They're an outdoorsy couple. He comes from a proud military family. His father served in the Air Force, his brother in the Army. After he stepped away from the full-time WWE schedule, he opened up an Army surplus store in Hamburg, Pennsylvania.
Which fits perfectly.
When he's not wrestling on the indies or acting, he's just a guy spending his weekends riding bike trails.
The juxtaposition is almost jarring, but it's deeply humanizing. The man who spent his prime years being despised by millions of people is, in reality, just a small business owner in Pennsylvania who enjoys a good bike ride and knows his way around a pressure cooker.
So what does this all mean? When you zoom out and look at the entirety of Gene Snitsky's journey, it is a masterclass in leaning heavily into the unexpected.
Absolutely.
He didn't chart a course to have a misdiagnosed injury derail his NFL career. He certainly didn't plan for a one-night jobber spot to snowball into a deeply controversial, career-defining storyline.
You can't plan for that.
And he probably never envisioned a future as the face of buffalo wings for TriStar products. But at every single junction when the road unexpectedly and aggressively turned, he didn't fight it. He said yes to the bizarre reality unfolding in front of him.
He possesses a rare kind of elasticity. Most people shatter when their primary dream is broken. He just found a different way to use the pieces.
I want you to really think about that in the context of your own life. How many times has an event you immediately categorize as a massive, unmitigated failure, a canceled tryout, a medical misdiagnosis, a lost job opportunity, actually served as the bizarre, unscripted setup for your next major chapter?
It changes your perspective.
If Snitsky's shoulder holds up in San Diego, maybe he plays a quiet few seasons as a punter, retires, and we're not doing a deep dive on him today.
Yeah.
The crushing setback was the actual catalyst for his legacy.
That's a powerful takeaway, and it makes you wonder about the broader history of heels and villains in our entertainment and our society. From the mustache-twirling antagonists of 1920s vaudeville to the towering movie villains of the 1980s, society has always had a deep psychological need for a designated bad guy. someone to project our collective anxieties and frustrations onto.
We need a villain to root against.
Gene Snitsky stepped into that role perfectly for a very specific era of television, embracing the grotesque to give the audience an outlet for their outrage. But it begs the question, as traditional television fades and our lives move increasingly online, who are the Snitskys of today's digital landscape?
That's a great question.
Who are the characters we are currently projecting our collective outrage onto? And are we entirely sure they aren't just playing a role waiting to sell us a pressure cooker when the cameras turn off?
That is an incredibly sharp thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through the wild, unpredictable world of Gene Snitsky. Keep an open mind, stay curious about the bizarre detours in life, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.